Hey guys, good morning. This is Dr. Felicity Keogh. Sorry I was having some technical difficulties with my phone. But I'm here today to talk to you guys about the topic of caffeine and water and how much of both should we be drinking or not drinking. So first I want to just start by talking a little bit about water. And I know that seems so basic and so foundational, but it's so important to our overall health. So water, we're 75% made up of water. And I am appalled because every day I talk to patients, who aren't drinking water, like none. And what's even more is some of those people they're drinking caffeine or other diuretics that further dehydrate you. So that's a big problem when we're not drinking any water. So we have to start by figuring out where are you at, how much water are you drinking in a day, and then from there we can make adjustments to improve your water intake. And there's several different opinions on how much water we should or shouldn't be consuming in a day. There's the really common one, 8x8, drinking 8-ounce glasses of water daily. That's about 2 liters a day. But I often tell my patients that I want them to be drinking at least a half an ounce to a full ounce of water per pound of body weight. So if you're 120 pounds, that's between 60 and 120 ounces daily. Now, of course, that depends on your activity level, whether you work outside or how active are you. That all depends on what you're doing in a day, but that is a general rule of how much water we should be taking in on a daily basis. And if we're not there, then that doesn't mean go from drinking maybe 10 to 15 ounces of water a day up to 120 ounces of water a day. That's not a good idea. Do not do that. That's asking for trouble. But what you do want to do is start to understand how much you're drinking and just adding 5 to 10 ounces extra per day to slowly and gradually increase your hydration level, and your body is actually going to become acclimated to drinking more water, and you're going to want to drink more water. And most of the people tell me like, well, I'm thirsty. I'm not thirsty. I don't want to drink water. I don't have any taste for it. Well, you have to get rid of that and just drink water. And the more you drink, your body's going to want more water. So that brings us to our next topic. We're going to talk about caffeine and how much caffeine are we supposed to be taking in on a daily basis. This is a topic that's very wishy-washy. You can see one day there in the news there's a study that showed that caffeine's good for you and has health benefits, and then the very next there's going to be a study that talks about caffeine and how it's going to cause health issues. So it's one of those topics that it's always good or bad, always going to be that way. And the reason for that is because everybody's body is different. So you really need to ask yourself how caffeine is impacting me. So you have to kind of start with that. Like if you have no health issues and you can honestly say like I'm healthy, there's nothing there, then caffeine, a little bit of caffeine is probably not going to be a bad thing for you. But if you're caffeine sensitive, or you notice that caffeine, there's other health issues going on in your body, then we kind of have to take a look at the caffeine and maybe reduce that or take it out all the way. There's a study that was done that I'll post in the comments that in regards to your fertility and your ability to conceive a baby, caffeine reduces the muscle activity in the fallopian tubes that actually carries the egg to the uterus. So that's pretty amazing. And then for IVF, drinking more than 5 cups of coffee a day, or 5 cups or more of coffee a day, may reduce a woman's chance of conceiving via IVF by 50%. So that's pretty huge. But I couldn't find anything else in the literature about caffeine in general affecting your fertility and affecting your health in a negative way, because it so much depends on each person's body. Everybody's so different. For me, when I was in chiropractic school, I actually became addicted to coffee because I was exhausted. And for anybody else who is a chiropractor and went through chiropractic school, or anybody that went through school really, it's challenging and it's just exhausting. So I started to really take to coffee. And in addition to that, I was even doing 5-hour energies some days, and I was really overdoing it on the caffeine. But I had this reputation in my class of being the health nut, and everybody kind of made fun of me in a fun and loving way. And they just said, oh, she's always bringing her healthy food to school. And just, it didn't bother me at all, but that was kind of always me. I was the health nut. And so, and that's really how I've been my whole life. So nothing bothered me about that. But it made me kind of ignore the fact that I was drinking so much caffeine because I was healthy, and all the healthy food that I ate would combat the caffeine that I was over consuming. So it took me a long time. And hi, Kyle. Yes. Yeah, coffee helped me not be a zombie as well. So anyway, I had some health issues that I was dealing with in chiropractic school as well. And I had to take a really honest look at what I was putting in my body and how that was affecting me. And it wasn't until years later that I actually completely took coffee out of my life. And it was tough because I liked the taste of it so much, but I noticed exponential changes in my health, and I've never gone back to drinking it. So I will later on share with you guys my alternative concoction that I've developed as an alternative to coffee, and I just want to share that with you guys, so we'll do that at the very end. But why does all this matter? So this brings me to a really prevalent topic that I hear in my practice all the time about adrenal fatigue. So adrenals are really, really important to talk about when we are talking about fertility, because the adrenal glands have a lot to do with our sex hormones. So just giving you some background or some anatomy and physiology on the adrenal glands, you have 2 of them, and they sit right on top of the kidneys, and they're embedded in a little layer of fat. And there's 2 layers to them. There's the adrenal medulla, which is the innermost portion, and then there's the cortex, which is the outer portion of the gland. The inner portion, the medulla, is what gets stimulated when there's a sympathetic response. So you have a stressor, and your body produces epinephrine and norepinephrine, and that helps you deal with the stress. It's like the fight or flight, and everybody knows fight or flight. You know, you see the bear, and you're either going to run from the bear or you're going to fight the bear. So that actually helps you deal with that stress. So that's a good thing. And then the outermost portion is the cortex, and that has 3 layers to it. And one of those layers actually produces the cortisol response. And cortisol is a natural thing. We have to have cortisol. So many people think of cortisol as being the bad fat-storing hormone. But the truth is, it's not bad. We have to have it in order to deal with the stress. It becomes a problem when we are maladapted and our adrenals become fatigued, or they're not working like they should, and we output too much of those hormones. That's where we can have issues. And that's why we're relating this back to caffeine, because caffeine, too much of that can actually overstimulate your adrenal glands to produce more cortisol. So what is cortisol? So cortisol is a hormone, and every cell in your body, just about every cell in your body, has a receptor for cortisol. So it really helps with a lot of major bodily functions. For example, regulating your blood sugars. It helps with your immune response, metabolism, electrolyte balance, blood pressure. It assists with your memory. It does a lot of different functions, but overall, it helps us deal with the stress. It helps us to respond to the stress. But too much cortisol or too little cortisol can be problematic. interesting fact about cortisol is it actually starts to rise around 5 a.m. and that's actually what gets us out of bed in the morning. That's like what gets us to wake up and actually get out of bed. It's amazing. And if we don't have enough cortisol, so thinking about people who are depressed have little to no cortisol and they can't get out of bed. So that's one way that cortisol being too low is detrimental to our health. On the flip side of that, people that are super stressed out, they have too high cortisol, they can't turn their brain off and they can't go to sleep at night. So that's just two very extreme differences. People that are maladapted have too high, and the people who have too low of cortisol. So how do we balance it out? How do we get our cortisol to be balanced and healthy? How do we get that healthy cortisol response back? Well, we have to start by stopping the stress, which sounds silly because stress is a natural part of life, so it's not really ever going to go anywhere. But we have to really look at those chronic stressors in our life. We were never made to be under chronic stress. Our bodies were meant to undergo temporary, short bursts of stress and then rest and recover. But we were never meant for like chronic stress. So what I mean by chronic stress, maybe you have a very stressful job, maybe your relationships aren't very good, maybe you have a really long, terrible commute to work and a lot of traffic, maybe you're not getting enough sleep, maybe you spend too much time on your phone and electronics. Just those are some of the things that we need to be honest with ourselves about and figure out how do we reduce or eliminate these stressors. So, and then maybe you don't know, maybe you don't have a clue, you just know you're stressed out. Well, then you need to really get quiet, you need to pray about it, meditate about it, whatever you do, go into nature and really maybe even journal and just see what comes to you. And you'll get something and you'll figure out that there's some things that I can change in my life to get some of the chronic stress out of my life. So that's the first step. We have to start by getting rid of that chronic stress. And then we got to change it, right? Then you have to take the next step of changing that. Also want to mention that when we are under chronic stress, we are depleting vital nutrients from our body. So things that are neurotransmitters in the brain that make us feel happy and make us healthy. So this is so important that we figure out what it is that's causing us to be stressed, because no amount of vitamins, supplements, anything you take is going to matter if you're chronically burning through those nutrients because you're super stressed out. The next step is we have to support your adrenal glands. What does that mean? Well, we have to first figure out what are your adrenal glands doing. Do they even need support? Maybe they need support from a different angle. What are they even doing? So the first step there is finding a functional medicine practitioner who is going to help you with that. I am sorry to say that the medical community does not recognize adrenal fatigue as a real thing. They just don't. But I know for a fact that adrenal fatigue is real because I see it in my patients. So you need to kind of look and see what functional medicine doctor can you go to see that might help you figure out where your adrenal's at. If you even have an adrenal problem, that's very, very important. And from there, we have to change our diet and change our lifestyle. So diet, we have to take the caffeine out, or at least big time reduce that caffeine. We have to change how we're eating. We have to look at our lifestyle. What's our sleep like? How much water are we getting in? What's our stress like at work? All of these things. Look at our relationships. We have to start with that as well. And then the next step after that is supplementation, because supplementation isn't going to really do anything for you if you're not changing the way your lifestyle is and what you're eating. And that's just where you have to be. Food is the first part of this. Our diet is 80% of what happens inside, because everything that we eat ultimately becomes us at some point. So we have to change diet, lifestyle, and then add specific supplementation, which I'm not even going to tell you what supplements to take, because it really depends on what your adrenals are doing, and I don't want you running out to the store and buying a bunch of adrenal supplements, because that is not a smart idea, because you need to figure out what your adrenals are doing first. So that brings us to the part why I'm doing this Facebook Live at my home today. It is, I worked a little bit this week, but I wanted to spend some time with my family. And also I wanted to show you guys my healthy alternative concoction to my coffee that I used to love so dearly and miss the taste of so bad. So I'm going to bring you guys over here. Let's see. Okay. So I have all these ingredients laid out, and these are things that I put in my drink. Not all of them all the time, but sometimes I use more, sometimes I use less. But this is generally everything that I put in my drink. So what I start by doing is I brew a bunch of tea. So I found this to be so helpful when I was kicking the caffeine. This is called Ticino, and it is an herb tea. Hey, Rochelle. It's an herb tea, and it is dark roast, and it tastes so good. It tastes just like coffee to me. Now, of course, when you first get rid of coffee, coffee is so strong that you're going to be feeling like your taste buds are kind of like, well, this is not like coffee. But it takes time for your taste buds to change, but you give it some time, and they really do, eventually, you really do, the stuff tastes really good. So I love this one, and then I also use Traditional Medicine's roasted dandelion root. This is amazing, especially if you have some hormonal imbalance, because it's really detox. Well, I shouldn't say really, but it is a gentle detox for your liver. So it helps with, and honestly, your liver is has a lot to do with hormonal balance. So it's really nice when you're trying to detox the liver very gently. You don't need to do this every day, but several times a year it would be really beneficial. So I just brew those two together. I come up with a big jar of that. That's the tea for the week. And then I add in my good stuff. So I love Vital Proteins Collagen Creamer, the mocha flavor. It's super good. It has collagen in it, and collagen is so good for our joints, our hair, our nails. So I put, a scoop of this in there. Sometimes if I need a little extra protein, I will use a little bit more of just the plain collagen peptides. It's unflavored, so it dissolves really nice and doesn't taste like anything. It just adds some more protein. Then I use my cacao or cocoa powder, however you want to say it. I love chocolate. I have been a chocoholic my whole life. I don't do traditional chocolate anymore. I do this. Naturally, this is really bitter though, so it doesn't have any sugar in it. So blend it all up in here. It tastes really good. But this has a lot of antioxidants. And it's a good source of magnesium, so it's really good. Also, fun fact about caffeine is if you are drinking coffee, you are eliminating magnesium from your body. So you really need to pay attention to that too, because coffee can affect I shouldn't say caffeine, but coffee can affect your magnesium levels. Next, I put in my organic golden milk super blend. This is chock full of just awesome herbal superfoods. So it has, maca, turmeric, goji berry, cinnamon, ginger, boswellia, cardamom, and black pepper. So this one's amazing. This one gives it a really creamy flavor, and it's just really potent antioxidants and anti-inflammatory herbs. Next, I use fats. So I use healthy fats, clarified butter, which is otherwise known as ghee. You can make your own ghee. I have some on hand. But I put a teaspoon of this in there, and I blend it up into my Ninja, or you can use your Vitamix, or you can use organic coconut milk, whatever suits you, whatever you like. I really love the flavor of ghee in my drink, though. It's just really, really good. And then I use the vanilla organic flavoring, because I love the taste of vanilla. So that's really good, just a little bit of that. And then sometimes I use my, if I have it on hand, the Four Sigmatic. I love Four Sigmatic. They have really amazing mushroom beverages, which sounds weird. Mushrooms have a lot of health benefits. So I love this one, the Lion's Mane, because it's good with focus, and everybody could use a lot more focus, at least especially me. So I love this one. It's just a packet, and you just put that in your drink right there. And then if I'm running short on time, I'll just sometimes mix it all together and shake it up in here. And I usually do 5 of those, and I keep them all in the fridge, and before I go to work, I take one with me. And that is my concoction. So hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully you guys will try that or some version of that. You don't have to do it exactly like mine, but you can make your own, and they taste really good, and they actually have health benefits. So hopefully that's helpful. And I'll put some comments, some of the references I use for the studies that we talked about in the comments. And if you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. You guys have a great Friday. Happy New Year, and we will see you next Friday. Take care.